In the frozen expanse of the Antarctic, a dramatic invasion is taking place. A resilient and relentless species from the deep is making its way into one of Earth's last untouched frontiers. This is the story of the king crab's invasion. King crabs, known for their formidable size and fierce claws, originate from the deep, cold waters of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. However, changes in their environment are driving them southward. Dr. Laura Stevens, marine biologist. King crabs are opportunistic and adaptable. They thrive in cold waters, but are usually kept at bay by the extreme cold of the Antarctic. However, the warming of ocean waters is changing this dynamic. These tenacious creatures can thrive amidst intense pressures and frigid temperatures. Recently, an army of king crabs has been marching from their natural habitats toward the Antarctic. The Antarctic Peninsula is one of the fastest warming regions on Earth, opening pathways for species like the king crab to move in and establish new territories. For millions of years, the Antarctic has been the only crab-free ecosystem on Earth. This invasion changes that. In the Antarctic, these species have evolved without the presence of such predators, making them highly vulnerable. The arrival of king crabs threatens to disrupt the delicate balance of the Antarctic ecosystem. These predatory invaders could have devastating effects on native species. Scientists believe this invasion results from shifts in ocean currents and global warming caused by the use of fossil fuels. A pressing concern is that these determined crustaceans are disrupting the delicate balance within seafloor ecosystems that have flourished for at least 16 million years. King crabs are voracious predators, feeding on a variety of benthic organisms, including sea urchins, starfish, and mollusks. What does the inclusion of a voracious predatory species mean for the ecosystems in these southern waters? The king crab is not just a regular crab, it has evident features which make it distinct from its close relatives. The king crab is known for its red shell color and massive legs. According to zoology, as we explored in our previous video, while the coconut crab claims the title of the land's largest crustacean, the king crab commands the seas as one of the ocean's giants. And they are classified under the phylum Arthropoda because they possess thick shells, which serve as ecoskeletons. Belonging to the class Malacostrica, king crabs share a fascinating lineage with their distant relatives, lobsters, various other crabs, shrimp, and even beach fleas. Classified under the order Decapita, meaning 10-footed, totaling 10 legs. In contrast, spiders and scorpions with their 8 legs belong to the class Arachnida within the phylum Arthropoda, setting them apart as non-crustaceans in this vast and diverse family tree. King crabs, as well as other decapods, have 8 pairs of appendages. The first 3 are collectively called maxillipeds. They are located behind the maxilla and function as mouth parts. The next pair of appendages are the shellipads, or claws. Following the shellipads, the remaining 4 pairs of legs are known as periopods. These legs are primarily used for locomotion. Beneath the main body on the abdomen are smaller appendages called pleopods. Pleopods play significant roles in reproduction, swimming, and respiration. In females, pleopods are used to carry and protect eggs until they hatch. Some of them have legs that span up to 2 meters and a body weight exceeding 20 pounds. Isn't that wild? They can also regenerate lost limbs. This helps them adapt to a challenging and competitive environment. If they lose a limb in a fight or accident, they can regrow it over time. These parts are typically in the middle of the ocean and are freezing, at least to warm-blooded creatures like us. King crabs are cold-blooded. This means that their body temperature adapts to the temperature of their surroundings. If for some reason they need warmer temperatures, especially during spawning, they migrate. Although many king crabs live in cold, deep-sea habitats, various experiments have indicated that their larvae fail to mature in water temperatures below 0.5 degrees Celsius, even after only brief exposure. Although they live underwater, king crabs cannot swim. They use their long legs to move on the ocean floor and can walk a distance of 1 mile per day. But during the migrating season, they can cover a distance of up to 100 miles. At the beginning of the spring season, they migrate from deep waters to shallow waters, and these serve as their breeding grounds. King crabs are usually born in shallow parts of the waters, but as they mature, More appropriate food sources motivate them to go deeper. As they grow older, they return to the shallow parts of the water, where they mate and repeat their life cycle. They're opportunistic feeders, which means that they're not picky eaters. Depending on their surroundings, they will eat whichever invertebrates are easiest to find and crush them with their claws, also called pincers. Baby king crabs eat phytoplankton and zooplankton. Older ones eat diatoms, protozoa, hydroids, other crabs, and other organisms that live on the ocean floor. Basically, the size of their diet increases as they grow older. Finally, adult king crabs eat worms, clams, mussels, snails, brittle stars, sea urchins, sand dollars, barnacles, fish parts, and algae. King crabs live and move together in clusters during the mating season. Otherwise, they are solitary creatures. They're also known to group together when confronted with large predators. In such cases, they stack on top of one another, forming a pod. This makes them appear larger and scarier. These pods can be dozens of feet high and contain hundreds of crabs stacked on one another. For even more protection from predators, their entire bodies are covered in large, sharp spines, which other animals, even humans, fear. They grow in size by a process called molting. When a king crab molts, it sheds its old shell and grows a newer, larger one. Even a human would find these pods scary. How much more the smaller and less intelligent animals of the sea? As we mentioned earlier, king crabs have made their way into every ocean of the world following their most recent invasion of the Southern Ocean of Antarctica. The Southern Ocean is one of the coldest water bodies on the planet, so it is absolutely possible for crabs to thrive in these waters, perhaps even more than they do in the Alaskan waters. But this is not necessarily good news for the sea creatures that are native to the Antarctic. King crabs are carnivorous creatures, meaning they prey on smaller creatures, and not many animals in the seas of the Antarctic can withstand the brash claws of these crabs or their spiked feet. Can the Southern Ocean's starfish, sea spiders, sea cucumbers, ribbon worms, and other creatures without pincers, claws, hard shells, or other crab-fighting features develop adaptations and defenses to resist a king crab invasion? Researchers and scientists have discovered that the invasion and presence of king crabs in Antarctica would fundamentally change the Antarctic seafloor ecosystem and reduce the diversity of marine ecosystems globally. On the flip side, this migration could be a good thing for the king crabs. Because of our interest in these crabs, their population in the Alaskan waters and around the Bering Sea has reduced. Their new choice of home is slightly less accessible to humans, so automatically king crab fishing will reduce significantly. On top of that, there are no natural predators of the king crab in the Antarctic, so their population is expected to shoot up in the following years. This unbalanced population spike would eventually become a problem, but marine scientists are actively developing ways to mitigate this before the uncontrolled population increase becomes a menace. Although they bear similar physical characteristics, the king crab is not technically a crab. Isn't this interesting to know? These giant crab lookalikes have undergone a process called carcinization. The term carcinization was coined by an evolutionary biologist, L.A. Borradaile, in 1916, and it describes the convergent evolution process in which a crustacean evolves into a crab-like form from a non-crab-like form. Simply put, carcinization occurs when different groups independently evolve the same traits. For example, it's the same reason bats and birds have wings, even though they are anatomically different. Similarly, crustaceans have moved from having a cylindrical body plan with a big tail, like a shrimp or a lobster, to a flatter, rounder, crabbier look with a less prominent tail. The result is that many crustaceans resembling crabs, like the king crab, aren't technically true crabs. Although they've developed a crab-like body plan, they belong to a closely related group of crustaceans called false crabs. Joanna Wolf believes that carcinization ensures that only traits beneficial for the species are repeated. For example, a crab's tucked-in tail compared to the lobster's prominent one can reduce the amount of vulnerable flesh accessible to predators, and the flat, rounded shell could help a crab scuttle sideways more effectively than a cylindrical lobster body would allow. Therefore, the physical features of king crabs are distinct and custom-made for their protection. Although king crabs are not fundamentally the same as crabs, scientists believe that they evolved from hermit crabs. This theory is supported by a few similar structures both crabs share. For example, hermit crabs are known to be asymmetrical and to have spiral snail shells. Similarly, king crabs have asymmetrical abdomens and spiral shells, even though they don't fit into their shells. These shells, called carapaces, are heavy and thick and serve protective functions. Similar to most marine creatures, king crabs breathe by gills. Their blood contains a pigment, hemocyanin, which contains copper, giving these creatures their blue-colored blood. How cool is this? Even cooler is that some of them can live for as long as 20 or even 30 years. Male and female king crabs look very similar, but upon close examination, they each possess characteristics that can tell them apart. For example, a male king crab is larger than a female of the same age. Furthermore, their sex can be determined by examining their abdomens. The male king crabs have a narrow abdominal flap, whereas female king crabs have a wide abdominal flap that covers most of the underside of the abdomen. The existence of king crab has also indirectly been a source of employment opportunities in some areas. In Alaska, fishing is one of their primary industries, with the Alaskan king crab as one of the most valued exports. Without the fishing industry, thousands of Alaskans would lose their jobs, and the state would lose approximately 1% of its GDP. Known for its unique physical structure and movement, the king crab is an interesting aquatic breed with many interesting notable features, many of which we've discussed in great length. Surprisingly, king crabs cause no potential harm to humans. They are not venomous, neither are their spikes laced with deadly poison. However, a potential danger can come from carelessly handling the shell or legs of the crab, which can be sharp and cause injury. For this reason, it is necessary to take precautions, such as wearing thick gloves when handling a king crab.